Forget everything you think you know about pirates. They weren't all wearing eye patches. They didn't all have parrots. And they definitely didn't spend every day searching for buried treasure. The real pirate world was much stranger. Some pirates were criminals, some were sailors, some were former soldiers, and some were actually working for governments. And that last group had a special name, privateers. They were basically pirates with paperwork. During wartime, governments could authorize private ships to attack enemy vessels and steal their cargo. Suddenly, piracy became official business. But when peace returned, that license could disappear. And the same sailor, who had been a hero yesterday, could become a criminal tomorrow. So why did people become pirates? Sometimes it was simple. Money. But money wasn't everything. Many pirates were sailors who were simply tired of being treated terribly. Merchant ships could be brutal places. Long hours, bad food, dangerous work, and brutal discipline. For some sailors, piracy looked like a better deal. And here's something Hollywood rarely shows. Pirates often had rules. Some crews divided treasure according to rank. Some created rules about food, and some even decided how disagreements would be handled. And surprisingly, some pirate crews were more democratic than the societies they came from. The crew could sometimes choose their captain, and they could even remove him.
You can't do this to me!
But don't get the wrong idea. Pirates weren't friendly social workers. They were still dangerous criminals.
Prepare to take her!
But often, the scariest part wasn't the fighting. It was the flag. Because if a merchant captain saw a pirate flag, he had a decision: fight or surrender.
Prepare for battle! Stand your ground!
And here's the strange part. Sometimes, pirates didn't want to kill anyone. They wanted the cargo, because dead sailors couldn't tell you where the valuable cargo was hiding.
Under the loose board. Please don't make me walk the plank.
And pirates didn't always steal gold. They wanted sugar, spices, tobacco, clothing, food, anything they could sell. And sometimes the ship itself was more valuable than everything inside
Look
it.
at that ship! Ready the cannons!
Because a fast ship meant something incredibly valuable. It meant you could catch more ships.
On them. Prepare for battle, me hearties!
But there was something even stranger about pirate life, because some pirates were actually women, and their stories were just as shocking. Yes, some pirates were women, and they weren't standing quietly in the background. They were fighting. Some became famous because they were extremely successful, and one of the most famous was Qing Shi. She commanded a massive pirate fleet, not one ship, not 10, hundreds. At her peak, her organization was powerful enough to challenge entire governments.
We accept your terms.
But here's the crazy part. She didn't necessarily have to lose. She eventually negotiated. And unlike the Hollywood ending, she survived. She retired and reportedly kept her wealth.
Brace yourselves!
But pirate life wasn't always glamorous, because the ocean could kill you without another ship in sight. Storms, disease, hunger, injuries, and terrible navigation were constant threats. And then there was scurvy. Without enough vitamin C, sailors could become extremely sick. And then came the biggest problem. The authorities
Look!
started hunting them.
They are coming right for us!
Naval ships became faster,
Ready all
better armed,
cannons!
and more organized. The Golden Age was beginning to
Pull
end,
harder, you sea dogs!
and pirates had fewer places to hide. Ports became dangerous. Governments offered rewards, and pirate hunters were everywhere. And that brings
Let
us
them come!
to the most famous
Devil
pirate
himself cannot
of all.
stop us.
Blackbeard.
Stand ready!
But Blackbeard understood something. Fear could be more powerful than weapons. He wanted enemies to believe he was completely insane. And sometimes that was enough. But eventually, Blackbeard met someone who wasn't afraid. A naval officer named Robert Maynard.
Prepare for battle! Fire at will!
In 1718, the two sides finally met. And this
Board
time,
them! Hold
the pirate
line!
trick
For
didn't
the
work.
plunder!
Blackbeard fought, but eventually, he was defeated. And his death helped turn him into a legend. But here's the biggest
Gold
myth.
for everyone!
Pirates
I'll take
didn't
that
usually
turkey leg. I am
bury treasure.
magnificent.
In fact,
Play me a song.
most probably spent their stolen wealth very
Where did
quickly.
it all go?
The truth is, most pirates probably didn't have a giant treasure chest, but some hidden treasures were very real. Sometimes pirates hid valuables because they were being chased. Other times, they simply needed
No!
a safe place to store them.
But buried treasure wasn't usually the mountains of gold that movies show. It could be coins, jewelry, cargo, or even something much more valuable. Information, maps, navigation charts.
Here is where we
Knowing
will strike.
where a
Let's
valuable
take
ship
what's ours.
was going could sometimes be worth more than gold. And that's the real secret of piracy. It wasn't about treasure chests, it was about opportunity. Pirates appeared where trade was rich and protection was weak. The Caribbean, the Mediterranean, the Indian Ocean. And eventually, the world changed. Navies became stronger, trade routes became more protected, and piracy became harder to survive. So the real truth about pirates isn't buried treasure. It isn't parrots, it isn't eye patches. It's a much stranger story of sailors, war, money, freedom, and survival. And perhaps that's why pirates still fascinate us hundreds of years later.